Hello, colleagues who have joined us recently, and thank you all who have been staying with us from the previous talk. My name is Oksana Belavus. I will be your moderator during this session and will monitor all your questions, and they will be announced after the presentation. Also, please say hi to our tech moderator Alexei, who will be responsible for our tech stack through the whole presentation. And today we're talking about automation growth, and we are very delighted to see Mariam as our speaker. So it's great to have you here on ProQuality conference. And dear audience, please feel free to ask any questions on the YouTube chat, and we will address them in the Q&A session part. Also, I want to emphasize the importance of your feedback. Please send the page to our speaker and rate the event at the end as well. So, Miriam, what do you think? Is this topic relevant for junior automation QA?
I think everyone can benefit from this talk, from starter to managers. I hope at least everyone will be inspired.
So, okay, let's get started. Miriam, I will pass the floor to you.
Thank you for introduction. Thanks everyone who found time at 7 p.m. from Georgia time at least to join our conference. I will be talking about 5% rule of automation growth, the incremental approach to automation test strategy. Let me introduce myself briefly. I am Mariam from a Crocobet company. I'm quality assurance chapter head and a manager. I also work as manager at Georgian Software Testing Qualifications Board. I part-time, I'm lecturer at Business and Technology University. I have lectures at Software Academy where I focus on level upping QA engineers around the Georgia. We have different kinds of lectures and training courses like certification courses or API testing skill up, etc. I'm also quality assurance architect at Soft Help Consulting. I help businesses to level up their own QA candidates and help them grow internally within the company. This is briefly about me, and let's move on to our topic. This is the agenda that we are going to discuss. It consists of 6 main topics, and some of them might be familiar, but I hope that you will find out something new and helpful from my talk. Let's start with the challenges that we are all facing when it comes to automation and especially planning. If you're an automation engineer, you're probably familiar with the scenario when you are new to a project. Project manager or other team members are giving you a task that, let's say, we already have manual test cases, but we have slow releases, we have slow regression testings, and we need the automation to help us speed up this process. All they give to you is just a slight requirement that we need to automate everything. It's like my favorite phrase when project managers are telling us that we need to automate everything, and you have to sit down and figure out where to start from. You don't know priorities. They don't give you business priorities, like what's the most critical aspect for business to this product. You have to figure out it on your own. Then when you are asking about deadlines and those priorities, all you receive as a response is that everything should be done as soon as possible, but we also should have reports about what you are doing and what is the progress of automation and what does your code cover. So we don't have guidance, we don't have communication, like proper communication, we don't have updates, nothing but like list of test cases and the pressure of expectations and having everything automated yesterday. This is like the phrase that we are often hear. So I feel sorry for you if you have recognized yourself in this case, but let me just try and guide you about what can be done from your side, not only as the beginner automation engineer, but also as a manager, like how can you support your team better, or any other role within QA, even manual testers. I hope you're listening. You will find this very useful and you will find out what your role can give automation engineers. How can you support them? So basically, when it comes to the problems that I have just listed down, this was the moment when let's say we have figured out how could we solve them from our side. This was the moment of giving birth to the rule of this 5%. What helps us to not panic is rules, strategies, small goals, small achievements, ceremonies like agile ceremonies, and maintenance process. So those are like main aspects that helped us to approach automation thoughtfully. When we take tasks, we manage to evaluate those tasks before we go and straightforward write code. We try to understand what business want from us, if that makes sense, without them telling us what they want. I think it comes from experience mostly, but it can be figured out even when you are fresher. So we try to make the process of automation less painful for QA engineers. Testers should understand that they are not only executors in this scenario, they are also process keepers. So when you come up with rules and strategies that help you how to achieve the goals that business wants to see, and how to make this process less painful for you, you can, let's say, you will be the director of this whole process. So think before you start, don't rush, and let's continue. This is basically, let's say, small breakdown of the quarters, about how to plan each quarter and what goals you should have. So basically, during the four quarters, we when you are new at the project and when you are just starting either starting from scratch automation, or when you plan to upgrade something and update your automation code, you can always use those little approaches and make your code more beneficial for this project. Let's say that you are given the requirements or test cases or simply the product test environment, right? First thing that you need to do is you have to be brave enough to say that I need time to evaluate, to assess everything that you have given to me, and then I will be able to deliver, let's say, a few deadlines or progress about my project, or give you real expectations what you should expect from me as from automation engineers. Because when project managers and business roles like stakeholders, when they ask what value does automation have, let's say sometimes they're asking on daily ceremonies, what have you done they don't ask how many lines of codes you have written. They just want to know how many test cases, number wise, how many test cases you have added to your code. But the painful point is that automation needs same effort as development, and not everyone sees that. They don't see that we might also encounter to the blockers to the processes. So this might be connected with selectors, locators, or maybe some functions that we're trying to make dynamic. They don't work as expected, and we need time to debug. Maybe we are also facing some issues that need to review the whole dozen of methods and just try our best to upgrade our code. Not everyone understands this, and this is like the most important part about being valued like an automation engineer is to communicate about what are you going to do. Spend time on planning. This is not waste of time. This is strategic approach to go smoothly to the next steps. When you will assess all the requirements that you have received, then you will be able to correctly plan your approach. What tool do you need for this project? Maybe you need to refactor the whole project and implement some new frameworks, some new milestones that you need to calculate, or perhaps you don't have enough hands to deal with this project and you need to request resources of automation engineers. This is what outcomes you will have when you spend time on planning. Then you go to development, you start writing a code. You absolutely need someone to review your code. So this is like the process which, let's say, makes maintenance process less painful for us. So when you have enough code reviews, then you are able to plan maintenance process like a separate step for automation to avoid less flakiness in the future within your test cases. In addition to those steps, be ready to make mistakes because we should definitely learn from mistakes. We should use them as a strength to upgrade our code and then plan next a quarter differently, right? So the main idea is that start point is very critical. You should not be afraid to make mistakes because the next steps will be modified per your project. Like automation is not static flow. You should be ready from the beginning that something might change, some test case might change, some functionality, some requirements might change. So you have to be adaptable. But when you plan something from this beginning, then the next quarters will flow like a river. It will be as easy as you can't even imagine right now. To dive into more details, let's say we take first quarter and we want to know what to do. So as I already mentioned, it's okay to request time on planning because let's say you have test cases already developed for this project, like manual tester has given you, let's say, a dozen amount of test cases for this project, and you want to automate them, right? You should not follow those test cases blindly. Why? Because it's a common mistake that not everything works as we see. Sometimes we also forget to update manual test cases. There might be some steps missing. There might be some test cases that needed to be integrated into one test suite. Automation-wise talking, that means that Not everything in automation is as easy as it sounds. So let's say if I have a test suite that has over like 200 test cases, and I am told to automate those test cases. Um, you have to involve manual tester in this process because alongside with them you can go through all those test cases and sort out them correctly as you need for your project. Let's stick to the example of 200 test cases. If you see some old or flaky test cases when you are going through them, let's say the amount of those test cases are like 30. You don't include them in automation, right? You put them aside. You are telling the manual tester, please review them. Maybe they need to be aligned with the current version of requirements that business analysts have created, or maybe you need to update some test data, some expected results, and so on. So this gives you opportunity to focus on the left 170 test cases. Then you see that some test cases, besides flakiness, some of them require refactoring. Um, there are tons of cases where our test environment or product itself, they they're updated, new versions are released, and it also affects all test cases because some flow might change. When you see this in the created test cases, you also put them aside. You don't you're not fully sure that things won't change again at some cases. So like why spend time on that, right? Why not put them aside again, give same task to manual tester, and let's keep focusing on something else. Let's say the amount of those cases that you need to focus on has reduced to 120 after you've done those two steps, right? So what you do next? Uh, you see that in some test suites, there are business priorities mentioned. Like, even if it's not directly mentioned to you, you have to be able to see those functionalities from the end user perspective. You see that, let's say, a product has functionalities of basic registration, authorization, search functionality, deposit, or any kind of transaction, and user profile, and etc. uh, I mean, when you have like experience of manual tester or simple experience of dealing with such products, there is no case that you can't come up with solutions or ideas about what should be priority for this product. If the word business priority is somehow blocking you, forget that. Ask yourself, what's more important to you, what functionality is more important to you, and focus on that. Let's say your review test suite. After review, you have 7 critical test cases. Those test cases are mostly like acceptance criteria for our product. You have like 50 high priority test cases, then medium priority, let's say 30, and 33 low priority test cases. After review, what you're doing, you already have answer like where you can start from. If you have 3 automation engineers in project, give critical test cases to the experienced one. He will complete them like smoothly and in a short time. Meanwhile, give test cases of high priority to mid-level automation engineers. And also like for the experience, if you have enough resources, you can, in parallel, start giving those low priority test cases to like junior or even intern automation engineers, because they will gain experience. You won't be afraid of them making mistakes because those test cases are low priority, and mid-level engineers will gain experience from reviewing the work of junior automation engineers, which will be like one step closer to level up for them, right? But if you don't have junior engineers in your team and you don't have enough resources to request more automation engineers to your team, you can stick to mid-level and senior level automation engineers and divide the tasks between them. Also, don't be afraid of postponing those low priority test cases unless they are part of some end-to-end flow. In this case, you can include them in automation, but just don't make yourself like don't make your headache from low priority cases, right? Be focused on medium and high priority ones. We also have like different type of scenario when let's say we have already some part of automation code ready. Let's say your automation code is delivering 30% of test coverage, and the team is using test case management tool, for example, KSIO or TestRail or something else. You know that those case management tools have, let's say, they give us ability to mark the manual test cases, whether they are automated or not, and what are the priority of those test cases. If you are involved in such project, what can you do? You can sit alongside with a manual tester. You can review this code and make sure that what code is already developed is marked as automated on your test case management tool. What test cases that are written in code, if they are missing from test case management tool for manual test cases, make sure that they are updated and involved, written from scratch, whatever. If there is like on the contrary some steps that manual test cases involve but that they are missing from our automation, those should also be aligned, synchronized. And why this is lots of paperwork, I understand, but what will it give to you? You will end up with a test case management tool that has let's say, perfectly sorted out test cases with priorities, with marked automation statuses, and this will give us managers like opportunity to calculate test coverage easily without any addition like Excel sheets and formulas that we need to write. We can use this integration to be more synchronized with manual test cases and calculate the coverage of manual test cases compared with automation. You will end up with test cases that need to improve, that don't need to improve, and as a result, you will have metrics that calculates, reports, and test coverage. Now, some of you might say that we have automation tools for that, like Allure or like HTML reports or Cypress Cloud for other framework, Allure test jobs, etc., etc. What's the difference, right? So basically, those tools, they calculate the amount of test cases that you have written specifically in your code and in your automation project. They don't calculate what manual test cases are, like what's the amount of manual test cases, right? They don't do the comparison. If I'm mistaken, please comment because that's what I've seen and what I know at this point. So easy coverage will be another benefit of spending time on a review at the start and then involving manual test case in this process. Also, one advice would be to try and use Kanban approach, not sprint-based approaches, please, because when you do automation and you try to stick with agile and sprints, this is very stressful for automation engineers. What can you do? You can use Kanban approach, create tasks like, let's say, if test cases pursued are registration, authorization, including their negative, positive test cases and other flows, you can simply create the task under name of the test suite, like the same name, give it to automation engineer. The automation engineer already knows what the high priority test cases are, so he'll be focused on that. And you can give them a slight deadline by having sync meetings that, like, not daily meetings but weekly update meetings, and he will do his best to deliver at least like 70% of work for that weekly meeting. So you are not generally focused on agile and on sprints, but you are giving yourself and your teammates simple deadlines. What can you do within a week? You evaluate the progress, and then you go through the next step, like what can we improve, what should we change to be more flexible and less stressful, like test one process, analyze the results, modify to make sure that your teammates aren't burned out, and then just be as flexible as possible, because this process requires not only focus on development but also code reviews and maintenance, like the most painful part, I think. um, After review, this is like basic process, so I'm not gonna stick on that. After review, you can do like slight calculation whether your test cases have detected new bugs or not. I'm talking about automation test cases. You can be focused on how to simplify your code, and you are slightly moving to the maintenance part. Basically, if you have maintenance process after each development, this might be very time consuming, but let's say you have scheduled maintenance process monthly. At the end of each month, at the end of each, let's say, fourth development week, when you have completed one or two or more test suite automations, you cannot take 1 week of maintenance process and be focused on what was the final time of test execution of my code. How can I simplify my functions? Uh, did my automation cases find new bugs or not? Am I focused on regression testing or end-to-end testing? Like 1 week is perfectly enough to go through those steps and at least come to the conclusion whether you have to um, extend the time of maintenance, or were you able to fit in this 1 week. It's beneficial if few automation engineers are involved in this process. Some of them might review each other's work rather than reviewing our own work. Lucky code review, because we might be slight skeptic for the code that we have written. So let others review it and then continue based on your results, planning of next month or quarter or so on. So let's like slowly move into this summarizing this incremental approach of automation. Um, I want to give advice to you like when someone is telling you that we need to automate everything, you are not responsible of doing so. As I mentioned, QA are not just executors, we are process keepers. So be strict with your words. You're not responsible to automate everything. I will repeat it like fourth time. You are responsible to automate what is right. If something took like 5 days to stabilize code wise from our side, like we have encountered such issues that have blockers, dependencies, and so on. And this functionality takes like 2 days to test it to be tested manually, or several hours. Why should we waste time on that, right? You should move on. You should see priorities within priorities. If business is telling you that we have to automate full user experience flow, like this flow has many variations. See priorities as what's more important for the user. The same question I already told you, but noted. Um, why should we focus on high risk transactions, and what does it mean? Um, some flows might be inevitable for user to proceed, like the common flows and functionalities that we are constantly clicking when we are going into the some website. Those are inevitable for the end user. So we include them in automation. Why not? Then, obviously, business critical features, right? These are the functionalities that we have to include, but some features might not be automatable. If you're sharing the report of your automation with your team, and they are asking you like, why is this flow not automated? Why didn't you include it? You can tell them that there are some cases that cannot be automated because of this and that. Explain and communicate correctly, like why those cases aren't included always, right? Then integration points. This term might be a bit confusing. Some of you might understand it differently. Let me like tell you what it exactly means from my point of view. When we are talking about automating end-to-end flows, uh, we see it as a user flow, like from user interface perspective. We click that, we end up there, we have this result, and so on. In most cases, there are not considered API calls, endpoint results, response bodies, status codes, and databases. So basically, when we are talking about end-to-end automation and integration automation, integration test type, you might know. We are speaking about not considering only single user interface flow. Make your automation as cool as possible. If you are going to automate one flow, check within this flow API call, check responses, check whether some data was reflected or modified in database. If, of course, your project allows you and you have enough like role and access to the databases, because not everyone has it. So if as much access and as much opportunities you have, you are able to use within your automation, use them. Make your automation code as cool as possible. Then you might say that this kind of automation might not be quite efficient, or it can be like more time consuming to automate. But let me tell you this. Uh, Based on what kind of framework of automation you are using, and almost all of them have the ability to sequence the executable tests. You can sort out your page object model in a way that you will have, let's say, endpoint calls in one page object, and UI flows in another, and database in another, and in test execution modules and classes, you can sort out those reusable functions in a way that you create various test cases. You might have the version of end-to-end automation from only UI perspective. You might have a version of regression test case automations also only from UI perspective as a separate executor. You can have integration test type uh, as a separate executor. You can have component test type automation cases separately. You can have database and data verification test suites separately, and so on, and the combination of all of it separately, right? You can have any of those. So why not to make our automation code more uh, cool and more able to detect as many flows as possible in the product, right? Next, I like to mention that we have to be focused on aspects of our functionalities, like if it's not critical to have automated right now, postpone it and automate it later. Like, you have a list of functionalities that can be tested manually and can be easily tested manually. So be focused on what's important. Then do not forget that you have maintenance to follow. This process might be painful, but be focused on what you want to do. Like, another maintenance reminder, uh, don't wait until your project is fully developed. Like, if you are building automation and writing code 1 month in a row, 2 months in a row, on after 1 year, do not postpone maintenance stage. Make sure that you have completed one task, one test suite, and then be focused on simplifying it, execution time, whether it's been reduced, increased, or what. Confirm that everything was done properly, then move on, then repeat. So believe me, including maintenance as a process within your automation flow and strategy will simplify your life of having that flaky tests at the end of your project. So don't postpone it too much, but include it as a separate step for your project. Now I want to talk about the metrics that might be more interesting for QA managers. Those are not all the metrics that we are using. Those are just like the key points that you need to keep track when you are adding automation test cases. So the progress of coverage is like one of the critical aspects and metrics that we need to be focused on. If you have increased the coverage of high priority test cases, what's the number of it? How do you compare whether the data given at the end of this month is worse than the future months, is better than the previous months? How are you comparing it, and how are you calculating your progress, and whether your approach of test strategy was correct or not? What are your evidences and what are your arguments whether your approach has worked or not? Simple as that. It's the tracking of test coverage and listing down the progresses. Monthly, weekly is too much, but monthly and per quarter, absolutely. Then we have the um, pass rate data, which it can be calculated based on whether our test cases were failing previously more often. Have we improved them, and what is the result right now? Whether we have improved our test cases so much that they are not failing and they work as expected. This is the pass rate from my point of view, which you should also calculate, and this will be the result of whether your maintenance approach worked or not. Then will be like a fixed time, whether your maintenance process is taking less time than it was taking previously. So if you are having maintenance schedule like monthly, and you see that the execution time of your test cases have reduced slightly, and your test cases are now running as fast as it was not expected to run previously, this is like the signal for you that the flaky fix time has worked, and now your maintenance does not require to be involved monthly in your schedule, but it can be rescheduled into quarter maintenance. When you start to see the results, your process is modifying. The key points are remaining the same, but the process and milestones are modified. Then, what else can we see here? This would be like one of the final slides of our today's talk, and we came into the end of whether you've been inspired or not, and what will your action plan be. So my summary advices would be: start small, track growth, do not hesitate to make mistakes. In addition, prioritize high value tests. Don't be afraid to speak up and tell project team that your expectations of automation value are incorrect. It should be this and that. Do not be afraid to say it, because that's like your responsibility as a QA engineer to say those things to your project. So prioritize high value tests and speak about it. Schedule regular cleanup, like we talked about maintenance part, and align roadmap with product goals. At least let's try to catch up because we know that things might change. So I hope that this presentation was helpful, was something that might click in your brain and inspire you to change strategy and flows of your automation. Feel free to share your action plan separately or either on my LinkedIn DMs. You can find me easily. And also, you can join and rate the event and join the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the presentation. That was an interesting approach regarding this topic, and it was really interesting to hear the details about planning and collaboration between manual and automation engineers, as well as filtering test cases with examples. And it's really important to note that different test management tools and frameworks also have some specific, of course. So, dear audience, if you enjoyed the talk, please scan QR code and rate our event and give Miriam a badge. And now we're starting Q&A session. If you haven't sent your questions yet, that's the sign to do that right now. So let's see what questions we have. Yeah, and the first question, Mariami, why did you choose to include just 5% in the presentation title?
Um, Well, there was a lot to a lot to choose from, but if you were listening carefully, like the main approaches that I have mentioned about planning, then moving to development and review and so on, like there was always the main ideas of approaches were running around like the number five. Um, and it somehow turned out to be 5% because when we have implemented this approach, from the start, we had like goal to achieve a more than 5% test coverage than we have right now within our automation by the end of the month. And this approach worked so perfectly for our project that we have increased these expectations. So my approach is that I don't want to have high expectations from the start when I'm trying something new. I want to start small. So the beginning was 5% coverage that I wanted to achieve, and it aligned perfectly with the presentation, I think. So that's why we have included this in the presentation title. Also, there was a little line below it. It said the incremental approach of test strategy, which is also part of the subtitle.
Okay, thank you for your answer. And the next question, hi Mariami. Yeah, regarding automation, we can apply shift left approach and cover test cases on the more low level. So in some cases, we can automate most of our test cases. What do you think about this comment?
Yeah, shift left on automation, to be honest, from my experience, it's a little bit difficult. Let's say at the beginning, like when you don't have functionality to work with, all you have is like design, maybe some APIs, some requirements. And what I do when I don't have enough, let's say, clickable opportunities within my product, um, we start building the page object model if I have design and I have requirements and I'm able to list down the BDD scenarios and acceptance criteria, and I want to follow like acceptance test driven development approach within automation, I'm able to do at least building the page object model. I can sort out my plan, like what should my project look like, and based on the design and requirements, I can mock the possible functions that might be useful in the future. But so far, I don't know what your experience, Yuri, but based on what I've seen, um, it needs more time and effort than to modify those test cases later. So I stick into building template of my project rather than having more expectations of building automation with the shift left approach. If we have APIs ready and we are talking about this scenario, then I think this is not issue to automate and include that. But also there might be some flakiness when you are trying to build the automation from the user interface perspective. Yes.
That's a great idea. So yeah, we can switch to.
I hope I answered you.
Mhm. Yeah, okay. And the next question, how do you prioritize which tests to automate first in quarter-based roadmap?
So basically, to answer as shortly as possible, when we have like there are different scenarios, right? When we have a manual test cases, like thousands of manual test cases, and we have test suites. At first, what we are trying to address is what is the common valid flow of this product that we needed to cover. Uh, like this is inevitable to not cover within our automation. This will be the priority, like to start with the positive flow build. Then um, when we have completed this positive flow, we see that in this flow you might have several steps addressing different type of functionality and different type of test suites, right? So basically you are going through these test suites. It is really recommended to like sit aside with a manual tester, grab them from their working chair and sit alongside with them and go through those test cases, because manual testers are people who know product. Even when you are going to wake them up at night, they will tell you what the product priorities are, because they've been working there for a long time, right? So ask for help and alongside with them, sort out what are the priority test suites from your project. Then go through the complexity, repeatability, which test cases have experienced the most failures, most bugs where are reported. Go through a Jira, go through some uh, project management tool that you are using, find the tasks, find the bugs, spend time on that. Only this is the way of sorting out priorities correctly. You have to calculate, you have to review what's been already done, which functionalities are more sensitive with the changes that developers are making, where might be the regression type of bugs detected, and which suites have the most high priority test cases than others. So I know it sounds a lot. It requires like lots of assessment. We basically took 2 weeks to plan our automation and review those things and synchronize and align everything that would help us to simplify process of automation later. We took 2 weeks. It from the start it stretched to 4 weeks, but it was really worth it because then the expectations of test coverage within the next month were very beyond our expectations.
Okay, so thank you for so detailed answer and great suggestion. And I suppose it will be the last question for today: how to measure coverage if during the automation new test cases are being added to the backlog?
If you're edit, so you're talking about the like we are in process of automation development, and manual testers have added several test cases to these, like couple of functionalities, right? How to correctly measure the coverage. Well, we don't measure coverage frequently, like we don't measure them weekly. Yes, we execute our code, but we're not saying that we have received or we have increased the amount of coverage by the end of each month, right? We are just calculating them for ourselves to see whether the progress has been achieved. But you can simply tell your team that I will give you, like, let's say, the data about automation coverage, like the most accurate one, will be given to you by the end of the quarter. If you see that per month some things are changing, then you can go with this approach. Tell your team that based on the changes that I'm facing in this project and based on the amount of test cases that our colleagues are adding, it's impossible to have an accurate calculation. But what can I do is that if in one test suite you have high priority test cases, you can calculate coverage in more detail. I have even different approach, which I didn't quite mention. You can calculate overall coverage based on what test cases you have by the end of each quarter. Like if you have total amount of X test cases, compare the total amount of X test cases you have automated with each other. You can calculate the coverage of high priority test cases separately, medium priority test cases separately, and so on. You can make it as detailed as possible to have enough arguments for your team. But if they are pushing you to tell what kind of coverages you have achieved on a daily meetings on but in at the end of each sprint, which minimum might be 1 week and 2 weeks, just tell them that this data is not accurate because of this and that. I have added this and that test cases, but to calculate the test coverage and my effort, I'm suggesting you this approach. By the end of the quarter, I will give you the full report, what test cases have been added and what not. There's also another case I'll mention quickly. So if you're calculating coverage monthly and you see that some test cases were added in the backlog, don't take those new test cases within your coverage calculation. Postpone those test cases to next month coverage, just to not mess up your numbers. This is like perfectly fine approach, and with this approach, let's say at the beginning of the first month, you have a number of test cases which you are taking into account and calculating for your coverage. Don't add to this number your new backlog test cases. You are not required to don't stress out because some test cases are adding and adding. This is process of manual testers. They are responsible to add new test cases and they will not wait for you. Just don't include them for your coverage automation unless the next month has started. This will be
Mhm.
like the simple as I can suggest what to do in this case.
Thank you. And that's all for today. And our time is up. And thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. And dear listeners, thank you for supporting this event. Presentation deck will be uploaded tomorrow on the talk page, and video recording will be available on our YouTube channel within 1 month after their conference. And that the fact is that 18% of our viewers are not yet subscribed on our YouTube channel. Let's do that right now. It's important for us and for our growth and future events, of course. So it's the final topic for today, and we are looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning for the Queen Mindset session with a real life story from Marina Ditkovskaya. And stay tuned and join ProQuality community in our social network. Have a great day. Thank you, Mariami. Bye
Thank you
bye.
so much for having me. Bye bye.